This looks like this is a time capsule from Back to the Future, but it's not. Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. I'm Patrice and this is Craftable Things. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please be sure to check out my other content. If you enjoy that content, please consider subscribing to this channel and also make sure you hit the thumbs up for this video. Now y'all, HTVRONT sent me their latest tumbler press, okay, the A200 tumbler press, and we will be testing it out and seeing if it's worth it or not. Now, already I can tell you guys there's two different parts to this machine. You can make sublimation tumblers using straight, skinny 20-ounce tumblers, and you can also make full wrap 40-ounce tumblers with it as well. So I'm very interested in this tumbler press. I've never seen anything like this. Shout out to HTVRONT for sending me this to review and test it out and try it and see just how I like it or not. We're gonna see it together. So let's get to unboxing, y'all.
Okay, y'all, so let's open up this box and see what's inside. This is the HTVRONT A200 tumbler press, and there's two parts to this, two different attachments. You'll see all of that now, but opening up the box, they have everything packaged really nicely, and we're just going to start with looking at some of this heat tape that comes into the box, also a pair of heat gloves that come into the box, and this is HTVRONT's typical heat gloves, those pink heat gloves. I get them with all of my HTVRONT machines. And then they also have some paperwork here from HTVRONT, and these are just basic instructions, a basic quick start guide. However, there are some QR codes that's included that you can actually go online and find more detailed instructions, but it looks like they just kind of kept everything minimalistic. But definitely use those QR codes if you need more specific instructions. But I'm just telling you guys, opening this up and using it, it was super easy to use. It did not take much time. Also included are some silicone wraps for those tumblers. Okay, those are very important for when you get ready to press it. And here's our first look at the machine, and this is what it looks like. This particular press comes in different colors. Well, it comes in this blue, and then it also comes in a white color. Now I'm just going to go ahead and get this plugged in so that we can get started, because there's not much to do. One of the attachments is already included. That is the 20-ounce attachment that's included. And now we're going to get ready and open up the heat plate or the tumbler plate for the 40-ounce tumblers. And those are the tumblers that are wider at the top and slimmer at the bottom. And we're just going to get ready and take this out. And I believe this machine will come with an option of just getting the 20-ounce or maybe both. You'll be able to get like a kit that you get both of them. But this is what this looks like. And inside of the actual tumbler press, when they sent it with a 40-ounce tumbler inside, which is awesome. So we're going to be using that to test out. And as you see, they've already removed the handle, and that handle is inside of the actual tumbler. So that's pretty cool. And another silicone wrap comes with this one that is actually structured to fit the tumbler perfectly, the 40-ounce tumbler perfectly. So let's head to the machine, and y'all, let's get started with testing this out. Alright guys, so now we're at the HTVRONT A200 heat press. Our image is being printed out. We will be placing it on this 20-ounce skinny straight tumbler. It is kind of holographic, but this is what we will be subbing on today. One of the tumblers we're going to be subbing on. And here we have our control panel. So this is where we will be setting our time and temperature, our pressure, and we'll be able to adjust all of those settings. So let's go ahead and turn it on. And we can go ahead and let's just look and see what preset settings that they may possibly have. So right here you see they have where you can press it at 390 degrees Fahrenheit. The pressure is 100, and for 195 seconds. That is a lot. I think I may just go ahead and go with that for now. And let's see what other settings they have. So this one's 390 at 300 seconds and 100 pounds. 390 100 pounds and 170 seconds. So it's up to you. You want to make sure you know what your particular tumbler needs. So we can just see there's different settings, okay? Now 300 seconds might be too much. I'm not necessarily sure. We can try it out and see. But let's see. I'm going to go with, because you won't have to rotate this. So I'm going to go with 195 seconds just to be safe, and we'll see. Maybe that will be enough, maybe it won't, but we're going to get ready to wrap this. Once this heats up, we'll be able to place it inside. All right, guys, so I'm going to get ready and just wrap this really quickly. And I cleaned this off with a little bit of alcohol, and we're going to get ready to wrap it. Okay, so I usually like to wrap it starting out like this, and this fits really good. I'm going to just kind of make sure it's nice and flush at the bottom. And we're going to see how this does a full wrap. So as y'all see, it's pretty wrapped. So my measurements for this particular tumbler was 9.3 inches around and 8¼ inches high. Now you want to always make sure you measure your tumblers because that can change, okay? Now I did get some heat tape with the tumbler, but I'm just going to go ahead and use some that I already have open. All right, so I'm pulling this pretty tightly. And I'm just going to take my heat tape and bring it around like that. Our temperature is going. It's looking good. And I'm just going to, and this is allowing me to like kind of pull it even tighter when I do it like that. Okay, I'm going to kind of tape up here, but what I'm not going to do is tape around the top or the bottom. I'm just going to leave it just like that. And this is as much as I'm going to tape today. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I always feel comfortable putting a little bit of butcher paper around just so that I don't have any of that ink bleeding through. And I'm going to go ahead and tape this because I don't want any air to get underneath there. I'm just going to tape it just like this, just to kind of seal that off a little bit. All right, so we're going to get ready and grab the butcher paper just so I can put it around. And we're also going to be using these silicone mats. Now you can use a thinner one. This is a thinner one and this is a thicker one. One is 4 millimeters and the other is 2 millimeters. I'm going to be using the 4 millimeter today. So we'll see, you know, because I want it to have a nice amount of pressure. So here I'm just going to put the butcher paper around here. Just to protect whatever. I don't really even want to get on the silicone mat. So we're just going to do this like this. Okay, now that I have this wrapped, I'm going to go ahead and grab our silicone mat. And then that silicone mat, this is the 4 millimeter. The 2 millimeter may be fine, but we're going to go with the 4 millimeter today. And we're just going to wrap it just like that. Okay, now let me grab my heat gloves because we will be getting a little bit closer to the plate and I don't want to burn myself. Okay, so we have our heat gloves on and I'm just going to take this, and right now it's open, and so I am going to just slide the tumbler inside with the silicone mat wrapped around. Okay, and this is the thicker one, so let's hope that's going to be fine. All right, so I'm just sliding it in. All right, we're just sliding it in. Okay, it's centered and we're going to start. All right, so it's all done, and when it was done, it just opened up on its own, super fast. All right, so let's go ahead and remove the tumbler. I'm going to let it cool off a bit, and I'm going to get the silicone mat out. All All right, I'm gonna let this cool off because this is hot. All right, so it does look like we might have pretty decent transfer on this side. I'm not too sure, but this side I can definitely see that image. So we'll see. We will see. We will see. All right, guys, so this is still a little bit warm. It's not hot, as you see. I can actually hold it, but I need to remove this tumbler attachment. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to pull onto the orange lever, and this is pretty hot, but this part isn't that hot. However, I'm just going to set this on top of this silicone mat that I have. You can use another one to do it. I'm just going to set this here. Okay, and this is what this one looks like. And we're just going to set it there, let that cool off. Now we're going to install the other attachment, and this attachment is for the 40-ounce tumbler. There is a little picture on there that kind of shows you what it's for, and we're going to place this inside. Now if you look here, you'll see that's how it's connected. Okay, so this needs to be pushed in all the way. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and we're going to slide this in, and there's two rails right here, so that you can make sure that you get it attached correctly. There's two rails, so you want to make sure we do that. And we just slide it in. Okay, and you'll hear a click. Now for this particular tumbler, I am using the Lock Leak Studio to print it because they actually have a template for us to be able to use with the 40-ounce tumblers. Here is the tumbler right here. And before we actually do that, I just want to see how this one took. I'm going to turn this on. We're going to leave it at what we had it on before, and I may increase it because I do feel like I don't know how that's going to look on that side, to be honest. So let's just see what we can do here. So just as I suspected, that image did not fully sub onto the tumbler. There could be various reasons why. Like, I did not do the pre-test or the preheat of a blank tumbler as the company does suggest. Also, that time was just not enough. I think the temperature and the pressure is good, but the time was just not enough. And so we're going to increase the time to 300 seconds. That is one of the preset temperatures. And guess what, y'all? We are going to try it again. All right, so before we press that 20-ounce tumbler again, we're going to go ahead and press the 40-ounce tumbler. And I already printed out the image, and right now I'm just wrapping it around, trying to make sure that it's even. And I'm going to cut a slit where the handle tabs are, just so that we can make sure that that image lays nice and flat on the tumbler. We don't want any air to be able to get in between the image and the tumbler. So I'm just going to tape it down as best as possible so that I can make sure that we avoid air. That air causes ghosting. Okay, the air will cause ghosting, and ghosting is just where you may get cloud-like areas, which are just like white blurry areas on the tumbler, and you don't want that. All right, so I'm just taping as much as possible to avoid that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to wrap that bottom part and try to match those seams up. So try to match where both of those ends connect with the top and the bottom, especially if you have a design that's meant to be a full wrap. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and tape this up, making sure that no air gets underneath. I could have made sure I taped that down a little bit tighter. I didn't notice after the fact, but it's going to be fine. Next, I'm going to go ahead and place the silicone wrap around the tumbler, and we're just going to slide this in on the side that's more wide. Okay, and it'll go in. Make sure that those tabs are faced up, so that way you don't break your machine or you don't break the cup or anything like that. While that's pressing, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap that 20-ounce tumbler so that we can be prepared for our second press. All right, guys, so this one is done, and we're going to set this onto this silicone mat because we're going to actually be removing the attachment. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this out. I'm just going to slide it out the same way I slid it in. And this one we press for 300 seconds, so we'll see if that was just way too much. I do see like some of that ink trying to escape, but it's okay. All right, so we're gonna let this cool off. And next I want to replace the tumbler attachment. So we're going to take out that 40-ounce tumbler attachment and replace that with the 20-ounce or the skinny tumbler attachment so that we can press that second tumbler and see if we can get better results. Now, I would recommend turning off the machine when taking out the attachments. I think that's just best to do. I didn't do it, but I feel like after looking at this, I think I need to turn it off and then, you know, change the attachments. And we're going to be taking this off very soon. It looks like it did. So 300 seconds may be a little bit too much. I can kind of see it all the way around. So I'm happy about that. Even here in this area where you would think that it wouldn't get that much pressure, I can see, you know, some of that print image coming through. So that may be a good thing. All right, let's let this cool or warm up, and we're going to sub this one. And I'm probably not going to put the butcher paper around it. I'm just going to go ahead and put that 4mm thick silicone wrap around it, and maybe it needed more pressure. All right, guys, so it's almost up to temperature, and we're just going to wrap this around like that and place it inside of the tumbler press. Now let me put my gloves back on because you gotta be careful. All right, we have this wrapped up, and I'm going to just slide it in, and we'll see if that's gonna be good. Just gliding it on in. Okay, and let's turn it on. Okay, and that is the 4mm silicone mat. Now, let's check out our tumbler and see how that one's going. Let's see how this one fared. All right, we're almost good. We're almost there. This tape is taping me out. All right, so here we have our 40-ounce tumbler that we did, and wow, y'all, look at that seam. I do see like a little pressure issue there. I might have probably should have just pressed it down a bit more, but where that seam, look at it. You can only tell the seam because there's a break in the design. That does not look bad at all. And let's see that bottom. I think I need a little more pressure there. But that looks good. Wow, this looks so pretty. Now let's see this whole thing. Y'all, look at this. That came out so nice. I absolutely love it. This seam is not even, but look at the seam right here, y'all. This part right here with the pressure, but as you see right here, I don't really have that type of issue with the pressure that much. A little bit there, but let's get the handle and put the handle on. All right, guys, so now we're going to get ready and remove the 20-ounce tumbler from the heat press, and we're going to let it cool off a bit. But looking at this, I can tell now with this press that that image is nicely wrapped around that tumbler, and we're going to have good results. Okay, so we let it cool off, and now I'm just going to go ahead and remove the tape away from the tumbler to see what we have done. All right, got all the tape removed. Let's see how this one came out. This is the second time around. Y'all, look at that. Look at that color. That color looks so good. All right, let's see the seam. Whoa. And this is just residue from the paper. So if I get my alcohol wipe and clean that off, y'all, look at that seam. Wow. And this is just residue. Like I can clean it. Oh my goodness. I am in love with this tumbler. And this isn't a holographic tumbler. This is just a regular sublimation tumbler. This is not one of the holographic ones. So like this one, look at the difference that made, changing the time. This side looks good, but even like compared to this side, you can tell like this really took. So this needed to be pressed a lot longer than that original press, not pressure. So I have a little bit of residue from the paper on there, and I'm just going to clean that off. That just cleans it right on off. Kind of looks a little bit like a, just like paper residue. Y'all, this came out so gorgeous. I love it. Both of them came out beautiful.
Y'all, so I'm overly impressed with the HTVRONT A200 auto tumbler press. Like, you don't have to rotate anything. You put it in and you get beautiful results. Super easy to use. It was super easy to set up. I wanted to not like anything about it because I sometimes don't like changing out parts and all of that. Y'all, I love this tumbler press. Look how beautiful this came out. Now, I do want to try like the complete full wrap of one of these and maybe get the center and see if we can do how it will look with that. But for this, y'all, this is absolutely stunning. The color is beautiful. It was really, really easy to use, y'all. And remember how I didn't really necessarily like, you know, how the seam did. And it wasn't because of the tumbler press. I probably needed to make sure that this part was pressed down a lot more and a little more flattened out. But y'all, look at underneath that handle. Look at underneath that handle. What seam? What seam? Like, this looks beautiful. I love this. These images came from Creative Fabrica. If you're looking for them, they came from Creative Fabrica. I absolutely love it. Now for this tumbler, I used the Lockleek Studio because they have a template inside of the Lockleek Studio to print out, and the size is pretty accurate inside of Lockleek. Now this tumbler, this has to be my favorite because of the colors and the pumpkin, the flowers, all of that. Y'all, this came out beautiful. So of course, this was the first one, and the first one, it didn't do what it was supposed to do, right? And maybe I didn't do what I was supposed to do by doing the temperature and all that stuff. But when you get new gadgets and you have new machines, you definitely want to make sure you test it out. Look at the manufacturer's recommendations so that you'll know exactly how long to press your specific tumblers that you have. All right. But this is how that one looked. And y'all, just a huge difference. Even the part that took, this still is way more vibrant. You can kind of see it with the yellow, but this is absolutely beautiful. I love how this tumbler pressed these tumblers. I am very much so impressed. I'm very much so impressed. This tumbler was the tumbler that came with the machine. So this is an HTVRONT tumbler, and this is a tumbler that I got from Alibaba. And y'all, I am loving these. Definitely loving these. I think I'm going to keep. Y'all, look at the bottom. And remember, I didn't tape it around the bottom. Look at that bottom, y'all. Look how that bottom looks. Beautiful. Look at the top. Look how the top of this looks. All the way around. That seam. Impressive. Impressive HTVRONT. If you are interested in this machine, in this tumbler press. I will have a link listed below. I think it's great for if you have a business, if you have a small business, if you're a hobbyist, you can use this. And this part right here, this is the game-changing part. This right here, having the ability to put this inside of a tumbler to wrap both parts, pretty impressive, pretty impressive. So a link will be listed below if you are interested in getting one of these tumbler presses. I love it. Check it out. Look up more info on it. But that's it for today, y'all. If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please hit the thumbs up button. And if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing to this channel. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as Craftable Things. But that's it for today, y'all. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.